Welcome to the Growth Minded Accountant podcast, where our experts will share best practices on running your firm in the digital age. This podcast is brought to you by CountingWorks PRO. Let's get started.
Welcome back to another episode of the Growth Minded Accountant podcast. I'm your host, Lee Reams II. I am the founder and CEO of CountingWorks and our sister company, taxbuzz.com. And today's episode is all about what's next in search engine optimization and how it's going to affect your firm, whether you're ready or not. So basically, the title of this podcast is SEO is changing for forever, what AI search means for your firm. And we're not talking about really small algorithm updates to Google search. We're talking about the future of how people find client, or how your clients are going to find you online, first of all, how they're doing research, how they're asking things, how they're adding to their knowledge, right? And then more importantly, we're going to talk about Google's new AI-powered search. I've listened to a bunch of podcasts on this, read up a lot on kind of the latest news. But what we're going to talk about today is kind of, this is just the beginning. But we do understand kind of what's happening, how it's working, what's happening today. And I think this topic is really important for anyone who is client-facing, who needs to find clients online, whether that be through referrals, whether that be through organic search traffic, paid search traffic, whatever. So things are changing, and we want to talk about those today. We're going to share a lot of interesting takeaways, some actionable items that you guys can use in your own practice. And really make this an effective tool for you as you go forward. Because I bet you money, most of your competitors, heads in the sand, doing things the way they've been doing things for 10, 15 years. And at this point, they really are going to wake up one day and go, what happened? So joining me today, as usual, is Rebekah Barton, our Chief Visibility Officer here at CountingWorks PRO. She has spent the last, well, I don't want to say, is it more than a decade helping firms stand out in search?
More than a decade. I'm old. I'm old now.
It's officially, that's what's great. I love that when I have to say, oh my God, over 30 years. And it's like, whoa, that sounds like a big number because it is. But Rebekah, Rebekah, welcome. Yeah, you're catching up. I love it. Why don't you say hello real quick and we'll get started.
Hey, everybody. I am very excited to get into this one. This is one of my favorite topics.
Yeah, so let's just say let's explain for the audience what is happening, and then what's new in AI search that we're hearing about. We have a large client database. We help them get ranked online, so we're watching this intently, and we're playing around in live time, with new technology and things that we're testing out and processes that we're doing that we're seeing great results. So it's kind of like, let's explain that to the audience and kind of how that affects them.
Yes. So there's a lot going on here. I'm not going to try to get into the super technical aspects of it, but we'll give you guys the lay of the land. So obviously, as we all know, AI search has become a huge player, whether it's ChatGPT or Google's Gemini. They're, generated search results that pop up now above organic search, whether it's, using things on your phone that are AI generated. Everything kind of has an AI component in this day and age. So in 2024, Google started rolling out their AI overviews. This was a huge game changer for search, even outside of ChatGPT, because now all of a sudden, the people who were going to Google even were utilizing AI more than they were utilizing organic search results down the page. So what we need to do now is not only optimize your content for traditional search and for mapping, but also for AI. And there's a lot that goes into that. So one really good thing about AI search is that it pulls authority more than big names. So if you've developed expertise in a particular area, maybe you're a restaurant accountant or you service gig workers, people who do, Uber, or they're doing Lyft or DoorDash or those kinds of things, or maybe multiples of those. If you've established yourself as an authority in those areas, AI search is very likely to pull your content over content from, say, Forbes or somewhere that's publishing just everything under the sun. So AI search can be a very good thing. So I don't want to start this off saying, wow, this new technology is scary. This is actually an area where tax and accounting pros in particular can gain a huge edge by niching down and finding kind of your spot and where your authority lies.
Yeah, I think in reality, this is the best news that could ever happen for small and medium-sized businesses.
Yes.
And Rebekah, I mean, nothing is more upsetting from our side as a content creators when we see, an article in Forbes ranking above some really high quality content that a local tax and accounting pro has written, for example. And it's all about the page authority of that, Forbes. We've found mainstream media, specifically when they write about tax and accounting related issues, more likely tax inaccuracies. It's just bad analysis. Usually they rely on interviews and quotes from some other people, but they're writing about topics that they're really not experts in. And what we have found is the AI tools go right through that, right? And so I'm going to pivot a little bit, and we've talked about this in previous podcasts, and this is a little technical, but there's a term called, I don't know if you say it, EAT or yeah. How do we get to say it? Experience, expertise, authority, and trust. But basically, what you just mentioned is the AI models are referencing this more than ever. And what does that mean? Having your bios on articles that you've written, credentials, right? Links to your directory profiles like TaxBuzz, 5-star reviews. And we see the AI tools referencing these 5-star reviews. And if you have some 1-star somewhere on Yelp or wherever, and they start referencing these, even though those pages weren't indexed or ranking very well before because they're low quality, you might start finding them in the AI kind of results pages. And that's something that's like, whoa, wait a second. I worked my years to build up my profile for the search engine results. And now all of a sudden, some rogue client from 6 years ago that had an axe to grind left a 1-star review, but that's being picked up by these tools, right? So you want to make sure you have client testimonials, case studies, examples with real life data. Make sure that everything you're writing is very human and to your audience. So that's why Rebekah was talking about niche. So whether you're focusing on a locale or not, or a locale could be just monuments in your area, sports teams you support, charities you support, activities you do. Those are all going to be different things that if it's like a local intent type question, you're going to start getting some, I guess, prominence in those results. If you're a niche, it's like, hey, I know everything inside and out about, CrossFit gyms, and I'm the expert in CrossFit gyms and how to set up their memberships and how to handle their cash flow and how to deal with equipment purchasing and all the different tips here and out. That is going to help you if you're creating content around this to start ranking and showing up in these. So, you could say in some respects, we've talked about, and let's go through this a little bit. There used to be what we called zero-click search, and that was just a traditional algorithm, the way Google did things. And they started doing that years ago. And that already kind of started taking traffic away from you. But this is going to be like a whole new game. And reality, I feel, 12 months? You think it will take that long? That it will be a complete reset, that people's behavior will completely change. What do you think about that?
I don't think it'll even take a year. I think we've seen the rise so fast. One of the statistics I was looking at said that just month over month, we are seeing a consistent decline of 20% with organic search. So month over month, 20% more clicks are being given to either ChatGPT or Google's AI overview as opposed to traditional search results. So I think maybe 6 to 8 months, we're going to see just a massive shift. And there's already been a massive shift in how people think. I know like my friends, sometimes now instead of saying we'll Google it, we'll say let's GPT it. And that vernacular has already started to change for us. And I'm sure for many, many other people too. So this is something that whether or not you are using AI, other people are. Your prospects are, your clients are. So it's definitely something you need to understand, and you need to be aware of how the internet is changing. One good thing is that if you've built authority in Google, I know, Lee, you were just saying people, could be a little frustrated. I spent years building up my Google profile, my, search results organically. That is not going to hurt you. It's still going to help you to have that authority. It's just that now we also need to flip the script a little bit and focus on even more niche down, even tighter content that AI is really going to pick up on. So it's just a pivot, but nothing you've done to this point is bad or is going to have a negative impact on you moving forward.
one thing that I've been saying, and we've been talking about in our podcast and even in our marketing material, is if your website is X number of months old, and we're doing this at our own. So CountingWorks PRO, if you're not familiar, we do have what we call a legacy platform. So we have thousands of clients on what we consider our old tech. And quite honestly, that old tech is the same thing that our competitors use today. So our old tech is their current tech, which I laugh about. But we rebuilt our entire platform for the future and built it on top of AI, basically. And we created a tool called Max to help us kind of, perhaps be that leader in the future, right? Like we were saying, hey, things are changing and it's starting to work out better and better. But my point here is if you have a website that is more than 12 months old, 18 months old, not built on the modern standards, and more importantly, if you have generic template content, you're out of the game. So if you maybe had traffic there, over time, you're going to see that traffic disappear. And it is more important than ever for tax and accounting firms to at least revisit their website and say, okay, it's time that we invest in a tool that actually is going to rank. So let's talk about what this means for accountants. It means that content quality and clarity now matter more than just keywords or backlinks, okay? So Google wants, and this is not just Google, but AI algorithms, whatever you want to call it, AI technology wants trusted, helpful voices answering the user intent. So generic content that speaks to a wide audience most likely will not get ranked. And let's explain why that is, Rebekah, and why, again, focusing and getting that content to be more specific. And again, when we say niche, it could be a service, a type of service that you're doing. So meaning dual income, tax preparation and advising is a segment inside a big, audience. But that type of content is much more likely to get picked up by these AI chatbots than something generic that kind of speaks to everyone. So kind of share that a little bit so people understand this.
Yeah, so there's a lot at play here, as there is with all algorithms, but Google alone has over 14,000 ranking factors in their main algorithm. So we don't even know all of the details of the AI algorithm specifically. But I'm just going to lay that out there to let you know there's a lot going on here. The more generic your content is, the more likely you are to be outranked by websites that simply have high EAT scores. If you're putting out something that's just how small business owners can file taxes, for example, with just a very short list, bullet points, that's not super valuable, and it's something that people can find anywhere. One thing that Google and AI search really care about are your brand. So what brand are you building around the web? Not just on your website, but everywhere. What do you stand for? What is your expertise? So the more you hone in on that, and the more your content focuses on your specific area of expertise, the specific service that you specialize in, whether that's tax planning for dual income, like Lee said, or virtual CFO services, or you specialize in a niche, like, let's do something random, ski instructors, I don't know, just something, whatever it is that you're passionate about and that you are focusing on, the more your content hones in on that, the more likely the algorithms are to say, wow, this person really knows what they're talking about. They're putting out consistently valuable content for their audience. And that's what you need to do cross-platform, not just on your blog, not just on social media, but everywhere you're posting. And the more cohesive your brand is, the better you're going to look to every algorithm out there.
Yeah, so let's get into some takeaways of things you can actually do and understand. So Rebekah's favorite word, content clusters. We're going to get into that. But AI references sources that show deep, repeated coverage of a topic. So just writing one article is not enough. Our research kind of shows long form, pillar content, and then 5 plus 10 articles that support that in a cluster. So just real quick, then let's say I'm doing it on a vertical. I'm doing dental practice, real estate agents, crypto investors. So instead of writing something generic like tax tips, I have content that says tax planning for tech employees. And that maybe is my pillar piece. And then, Rebekah, you can go into stock options as a subcategory. And those are kind of the ways you build out clusters. But basically, those are all signals to this AI technology that this person really knows what they're talking about. They're going deep in this subject. They're not at this like top level, generic level, throwing in keywords. You're actually an expert at this. That is the future, and that is what's so important for everyone to understand. So again, if you're having like template-based content or one article for everybody, good luck, right? Another thing, and this is, I think, really important that we learned, and we're actually utilizing this more than ever, but is the external links that you're using right now. The AI looks at that even more importantly than just going to like a CNBC or a Forbes. They're like, go to the IRS site, go to like a .gov. So explain a little bit of how that plays in as a kind of a signal to the AI search side and why that's so important.
So authority matters. It still matters, right? So even if you have high authority, these very highly touted .edu, .gov, those types of sites, they are going to have a lot of authority, unbiased authority, which is something AI really kind of cares about. So it's really important to source and to link. Lee was talking about external linking. So basically, if you're writing an article and it's about, a specific section of the tax code and how it impacts medical practices, let's say equipment depreciation or something, you would maybe want to link out to that particular section of the tax code on the IRS website as part of your article. Then it's not just you saying it, it's you proving it. And another thing I want to point out in all of this is that keywords are still important, just not in the way they used to be. I've almost started thinking about it as you need to cover key concepts rather than having a specific 2 or 3 word phrase in your article in the way we used to think of keywords. As you create these content clusters, think of pain points, think of questions that need to be answered for your target clients and address those in your articles. Then you're addressing key concepts that they are likely to search for in GPT, in other generative searches, and you're answering those questions, and AI search is going to be like, oh, wow, here's the answer to that laid out right here. So still think in the realm of keywords, but think about it more conceptually. I think that can be a really helpful way to put out super valuable content that AI is really going to appreciate and rank well.
AI writes in plain language. So guess what? Write your articles in plain language. And then building off of what Rebekah just said, so use exact questions like in your headers. So here's a long article, but now I have a section. And what we mean by this is, I'm just going to give it an example. Like, what are the tax benefits of an S Corp? That's the question that probably is asked by, someone in ChatGPT, for example. If that's one of your headers, and then you give a very good answer to that, direct, clear, accurate, 2 to 3 sentences, those are the things that AI is picking up on. Okay. And that's kind of an important thing to figure out. But take that a step further, make sure that you're utilizing proper schema. So now we're getting a little technical, and this is why choosing the right website vendor is so important. So structured semantic HTML, kind of explain what an H1, an H3, bullet points, tables, schema things like FAQs, local business. Why is this so important to both the search engines, Google, but also to the AI search?
I am truly a nerd, guys, and I love schema, so I'm excited to talk about this with you. Schema basically is the breakdown of your page. So it is telling Google or any other algorithm what the article or what the web page is about. So for example, on your About Us page, we'll just make it really easy. The H1 would be the title of the whole page. It could be something like get to know your firm name or about your firm name, welcome to your firm name. That's going to be your H1. It's an overarching view of what the website is about. And H2 is going to be a smaller but still important subsection. So perhaps you could have working with us and kind of explain your process or our process. Then you might have about your name and have a section that's specifically about you, the founder, what your passion is, where you went to school, all these different things that pertain specifically to you. Then you could have another H2 that's our services. And under that, you may have H3s, which are basically yet a further breakdown. So it's very logical, but it's just breaking down further by level of importance. Each section of a web page is kind of the easiest way to explain schema. So an H3 might be, under our services, you would have a paragraph, here's what we do. Then you could have an H3, tax planning, tax preparation, accounting and bookkeeping. Those would all be H3s that you could then further explain down the page. So every page of your website should have schema. Some pages don't need H2s and H3s. They may just need H2s. Some pages may benefit from bulleted lists. And that's kind of where me and my team come in to help you figure out what the best schema is for every page of your website, because there is kind of a methodology to what Google and other algorithms look for that is on the technical end of things. But that's just kind of a basic breakdown.
Yeah, and we're going to stay a little in the technical corner side here. I know the geek side of you is all excited.
I'm so happy.
And then we'll get into some non-technical stuff. But you want to realize you want to optimize for voice and conversational search, right? So generative AI is trained on natural language queries, right? So like, you're a human, right? Like a human, not a robot. So use conversational tone and real world scenarios in your blogs. If you're using AI, like tools like Max, to assist you in writing. So I want to make sure this is clear. We've done other podcasts and webinars on this, but I never go to AI and say, write me a blog on such, and then that's my prompt, okay? If you learn how to teach it to write in your style, I use narrative style. I like telling stories. I like giving real client examples. I like answering the why, how, and what ifs. I like addressing pain points, value, ROI. So those are terms that I will use when I set up to write a blog article with AI assisting me, okay? So tools like Max can do this, but you need to realize you got to use the same natural human language, because that's the language that these AI tools speak in. But more importantly, specifically now with, maybe the big, beautiful bill gets through, we probably will have some sort of tax reform, but there's all these things right now to keep your content fresh. And let's talk about this, the difference between evergreen and more topical type of content when it comes to how things rank, and more importantly, how it's picked up as well in these AI searches. So Rebekah, if you can kind of just explain the difference and then why it's so important to have fresh content for both Google and the AI models.
Yes. So these are both very important buckets. You do need to have both topical or newsworthy content and evergreen content. Topical newsworthy content is pretty self-explanatory. It's going to be content related to things that are currently happening. Could be tax legislation, could be changes in your town. If you're catering to your local clientele, maybe there's been a municipal tax change that could affect small business owners, something like that. Property tax changes, that sort of thing. That would be a topical idea. Even something like what we're talking about today, the rise of AI search, would be more topical. So that's something that you could publish. Typically shorter articles, oftentimes 400 to 600 words is going to be really good for a news type of article. They are often picked up within the next day or two by both Google search and AI searches as people are searching for these topical events. Evergreen content, on the other hand, is going to sit on Google or within whatever algorithm you're utilizing, and it is going to just rank higher and higher and higher over time. So it's called evergreen because it lasts, just like an evergreen tree. And what you want to do here is really cover everything. You want these to be comprehensive pieces that someone could come back to in a year and they're still going to be relevant. So it could be something like top 10 tax deductions that dentists didn't know about, something of that nature. Now, one thing with evergreen content is that you may need to go back and make occasional updates, but you shouldn't update it constantly. However, updating it once a year, if there's a major change to one of those deductions or something like that, that can be very helpful. I don't recommend ever changing the original publication date. Google does not like that. But one thing you can do is at the bottom, you can add a little tag, little italicized line that says last updated on X date and time. That way, Google knows you've made an update, but it also knows you're not trying to cheat the system by reframing it as fresh content. Plus, by changing the publication date, you can lose all that authority that you've built. So some evergreen pieces can get literal years of mileage. I mean, 5-10 years of mileage, especially if you go back and make those little tweaks over time.
Yeah, I think that's obviously very important. One thing that I think people, I don't want them to get, well, I don't really care about finding new clients through my content, right? But but meaning through like content marketing. So I have an established business. Perhaps I do have a niche. I do breweries or cannabis or something. What we have found is your service pages. So people are saying, who's the best, brewery CPA in Illinois? And lo and behold, we just had a use case for this, Rebekah, if you want to share it. They're showing up 2 days after a launch, a fresh brand, showing up in ChatGPT search with the keywords in the background that you helped create this custom narrative. But explain kind of, this isn't just traditional content marketing. This is intent buying as well. So explain what maybe people, I don't think this applies to me, but yeah, it does. So kind of explain how that works.
Right. So it does apply to you. We'll just, like Lee said, it definitely does. So in the case Lee was talking about, we did have a client who just launched brand new tax and accounting brand, brand new firm. And within 48 hours, as we were testing search terms, ChatGPT had picked up on his niche, which was breweries. He's in the Chicagoland area, so definitely not a small region. There's definitely some competition in his neck of the woods. So it was really exciting to see him ranking so quickly within that specific niche. So it's kind of a testament to how much niching down can help you by establishing that content early and that expertise early. As far as intent buying goes, it's not just for new clients, right? This is also a way to upsell yourself. Maybe, for example, you do have a niche and you've realized, okay, I work with restaurant owners and a lot of them are still just paying me kind of a paltry fee every year. I'm kind of bogged down. I would really like to upsell some of them to virtual CFO services for restaurant owners. Using your website and having web pages that show how you can do that, having a page that says virtual CFO services for restaurant owners, and then outlining how you can provide those services can actually help you upsell your existing client base too, even if you don't want new clients. And it's also a way to just keep people engaged. Client retention can be improved by having valuable content. As people go to your website, they are going to be like, wow, this guy really does know what they're doing, or this girl is really intelligent in this area. I want to keep working with them for the long haul because I really like everything they're saying, and I'm seeing the financial outcomes in my own life.
Yeah, and these are key areas, obviously, that generate more referrals, more shares on social. So I was just trying to counter that person sitting there going, oh, this doesn't apply to me. It 100% does. And we know it, but I just wanted to at least make it a talking point. One other thing that is important that is rewarded today, specifically in these new models, is incorporating whether you do video. So for example, I will have not a podcast. I will add this podcast to the blog article that I write about this subject. For our clients at CountingWorks Pro, we already automatically add what we call audio deep dives, which is like a two-way AI-generated conversation about the blog content that we create for clients. But we're now doing this where this is all one-to-one. You can create a custom audio podcast formatted discussion about any blog article you create through CountingWorks Max tool. And not only that, we're taking it a step further where we are doing one-to-one custom blog content, social media posts, newsletters based on your preferences, your memories. We have all these different playbooks we're rolling out. So that's what we mean. You got to leave the template cookie cutter world. So if you're, again, with any of my competitors, you're now, you're going to slowly but steadily see your search results go way down. So it's really important. Adding this type of content to your blogs, and we do this all automatically, will actually help it be referenced even more, okay? So there's a lot of different tips that go with that. I want to go now a little bit to the idea about the linking again, because we talked about this, but how do you decide, what is a good one? So I said sba.gov, aicpa.org, prioritize EDU's high domain authority. So you're still going to rank to like an Investopia or Investopedia. That's another high relevant one. But explain, like, you could still not do the local external link, is my point, just because you're trying to rank. So keep it human and valuable. So kind of explain, this is somewhat like writing a research paper in an AP class in high school or in college, that the more you add, so explain these techniques so people that weren't trained in journalism or writing understand how to do it to help boost it. Because we've realized that we did not have enough external
Yes.
high-ranking authority links coming out of some of our content. So we actually went back and revamped a lot of stuff because we're just like, hey, this isn't working as well as it used to. And that's a change we made.
Yeah, and this is definitely linking has always been important. It is becoming increasingly important, which I think is part of where like we noticed a change with how some of our content was ranking. So this is something that if you're just getting into the content game now, really, really applies to you. So basically, as a recovering English major, I do often feel like I am back in college when I'm writing things. So you are kind of having to weed through and pare down, okay, which of these is going to be the best choice for this particular article that I'm writing, which is going to carry the most weight without being overly weighty and looking like I'm just trying to prove a point or be, the best in the class or whatever. So high authority sites like the IRS, you're very rarely going to go wrong when you're writing about tax and accounting related topics. But think about your audience. For example, if you are writing a municipal article, writing something from like sourcing your local NBC affiliate or your local ABC affiliate or a local business journal that has a lot of clout in your region. That can be just as important because it also shows the internet that you're involved in your community and you are on top of what's happening locally. You're not just pulling some source because it has .gov at the end, right? So the internet does care. It's not scary. It's not something that you need to spend, hours like exhausting yourself over trying to agonize over which source to use, but just briefly consider as you're writing, okay, is this a local article? Would I be best served, perhaps using a local news source? Or is this something that has wider appeal or perhaps more national implications? Should I be sourcing from somewhere that is, a .gov type of website? Is this coming from the federal government? That sort of thing. So just kind of use your common sense. And also think through a little bit who your intent audience is and what they're going to appreciate, because AI will pay attention to that. They'll be like, okay, this person really cares about X, Y, and Z. Let's show them an article that sources something related to that.
Yeah, that's all perfect. And I want to I did do an exercise. I did prep. So I do have a reference here. I'm going to give some samples of what type of AI first prompts you should write. So if you're using tools like Max to write blog content for you, I want to explain to you how to write a prompt that gets you the right type of output. I'm not getting into tone and write, in a narrative format like you are an ad agency, writer for Apple, but that's getting it where it's personalizing it. Here, I'm just going to give like the general, how do I get the right outputs for the SEO first AI side. So I'll do one here, a long tail question blog builder. So here's a sample prompt. And then Rebekah, you can kind of add in as you go. But I have a few here that I just wanted to share. If you reference my blog article, I'll have a bunch of these on that as well, so you can have access to them. But so here's an example. Write a 750 word blog post that directly answers the question, and then insert your niche specific client question for which target audience, right? So use a conversational tone, right? Human-like. Add bullet points and subheadings, so that will know H2, H3s. Include real-life examples, an expert summary at the end, and then cite trusted sources like irs.gov, sba.gov, aicpa.org. And I'll give you an example filled in. So write a blog answering how can real estate agents lower their quarterly tax payments for self-employed professionals. Include links to IRS Form 1040-ES and examples of estimated tax planning strategies. So now I've given all the variables that you need to output. So if you were writing that particular prompt, how would you improve it to add some character and some human-like qualities to it? I'm trying to just say, these are the core, like that is the core of getting the content out. But now how do we make this your own for your firm?
So you want to kind of train your AI over time, right? So be like, my firm specializes in working with this type of person. You can even say, the generation. My firm specializes in working with millennial business owners who care about, X, Y, and Z issues. They're worried about retirement planning. They're worried about, home ownership, these different things in their personal lives. You can also tell it the tone you like. Perhaps you want a little humor. You don't want it to be just this straight academic sounding dry article. You can tell it, include a little humor in this article. I want it to be interesting yet valuable. Another thing that I often do is tell it to source quotes from real people. One thing AI will do is make up quotes. I don't like to do that. I like to use real quotes with sources. So I often will tell it to add 1 to 2 quotes with sources, valuable sources, high authority sources that I can insert into the article to give it a little more flavor and to add that personal touch to say, hey, people actually are talking about this. Real people who are experts in the industry, whether they're government officials or, other tax professionals or whatever you're writing about, city officials in some cases, that can be a really good way to add some personalization to it as well. So just let it know the tone you want, the core audience, and you can also tell it more things about your firm. You can say things like, we're based in X city, we are located downtown, we often have, walk-in clients who just walk by and need help, or whatever your personal situation is, or we're a virtual firm, we serve people nationwide. The more information you give the AI, particularly in its memories, which is kind of like its brain, the better off you're going to be in the long run, because it's going to start outputting content that sounds like you. And the more you do it, the better it's going to get. It's just like getting to know, this sounds a little creepy in the AI age, but it's kind of like getting to know a friend, right? The more you talk to the AI, the more it will get to know you, and the better the outputs are going to be. So the better it's going to get to know you as well.
Yeah, and I think what's is also fun about this is the old days with just regular Google, getting those concepts across were very difficult. And now AI can handle so much data and is so much more powerful that it can take those nuances and really personalize you to the search for whoever's looking or researching specific, and it matches you much better. So I think that's the real benefit. You can use AI to help you write your EAT bios, right? So you need to say, what is my credential? Write a 100-word author bio for me, my name, and my credentials, who specializes in this, dental practices, include trust building facts, like years of experience. This is what Rebekah was saying, certifications and client focus, keep it human and professional. That's going to add, these are all signals to boost your credibility in AI's eyes. So we talked about clusters before. I'm going to give a real quick example of what a cluster would be. So I'm going to give an example of what one is, like create a blog cluster for tax advisory firm focused on medical professionals in New York. Okay, think about all the things. So what am I doing? I'm doing a blog cluster, so AI will know what you're going to do. It will create your pillar piece. It will then create your sub-content pieces. What am I? I'm a tax advisory firm. Who do I focus on? Medical professionals. Where am I located? New York. This is going to get you really focused content. It's going to make you very successful here. Let's see. What are some other things here? We talked about adding, schema. So if you wanted to add that into your prompt, write a proper article with proper schema, add CTAs perhaps, add a bio at the end. You can have that bio set up in your memories. And then every time that article writes, it can add that bio. You can even set that up in a tool where, that's automated when you're doing it. So it really makes sense, right? Other things you could do, client Q&A, turn them into AI index FAQ. So explain why an FAQ is so successful. It is successful in search too. So here's 5 common questions into a structured FAQ section with a 2 to 3. Remember, 2 to 3, they want it concise. Use plain English human stuff. And then maybe you have an external link in that FAQ. But again, why is that so important? These like little snippet deals, and why do they get ranked so well?
FAQs are great because they hold people's attention and they answer questions in a very, very concise fashion. So like you were just saying, Lee, they're kind of the ideal for search, honestly, because people don't have long attention spans. Although it is important to have pillar content for the sake of the algorithms, not everyone is going to read through the pillar content end to end. search or FAQs are a great way to kind of break everything down, and they help you build a really excellent internal linking strategy. So let's say that, one of the FAQ questions, you give a little short 2 to 3 sentence answer on the FAQ page, but then you link out to a larger tax planning blog post that is part of a pillar content cluster or something. And if you link out to that pillar piece, you're also starting to build an internal linking structure from your FAQ page. So FAQ pages are kind of like a bastion of good SEO practices. From my standpoint, I encourage everyone to have them. They're great for schema. They're great for the user experience. They're great for search. And they typically address a lot of those key concepts I was talking about in a very, very simple, easy to digest way for anybody who's searching.
I'm going to do one more and then move on from the sample prompts. But a lot of our clients are very local. They want local page authority. They want to get local traffic. They want to rank well in an area. So here's a sample prompt. Write a local SEO page for, Lee Reams and Associates, a tax and accounting firm serving Newport Beach, California. Highlight niche experience in CrossFit gyms and include a section on FAQs, testimonials, and relevant local laws. Optimize it for Google AI search. Now we're telling AI exactly who we're writing for, what elements to include. You're going to get a really powerful export here. And then what you're going to see is you're going to outrank all your competitors in the area, just if you localize a lot of your search using these keywords. So we could do a full hour on this. So I think that's enough. And we're starting to talk highly technical. And just like, as a tax pro, for example, you don't want your clients going out and trying to make all their own decisions on tax planning strategies. That's where you come in. It's kind of where we come in as well. That is our expertise. But let's start here, Rebekah, of how long do, small tax and accounting firms have? When is all this rolling out? When is it beyond experimental? And you're going to start seeing that huge gap between firms that are like proactive and utilizing services like CountingWorks PRO versus my website is on a template cookie cutter site that has all the same content that looks exactly the same for every single client because there's no narrative, there's nothing to make me step out. What's going to happen to them and how long will, it's going to start affecting their business. So this is a legitimate, I don't like using fear here, but this is a change that is monumental in the way everything should work. You need to be paying attention to this point. So kind of explain what your thoughts there. We're not predicting the future. I'm sure Google has a cash cow of all cash cows to protect. So they are obviously A/B testing. They're going into subscription services. They're changing the way and they'll throw ads, of course. The difference is AI search is the compute costs are much less than an AI search. So, where is their margins? They're going to figure it out. But what do you think is going to happen here? When will local firms start seeing results where they're going to start seeing less traffic? And those that have stepped up and jumped on this are going to start benefiting.
We're already seeing it. I wouldn't say it's reached its peak, but we're already seeing it. I would say this is the largest cultural technological shift probably since the internet was rolled out publicly. This is changing everything. It's changing how we live. I look at my kids who are 5 and 8. Their generation is growing up with AI. They already know what AI is. They know what GPT is. They use it as a verb in the way that we used to use Google as a verb when I was a child. This is culturally changing everything, and it already has to a large extent. So if you are not doing this and you are not optimizing, you're probably already being left behind a little bit. You may not have realized it yet, because much in the way that Google kind of gave everybody that 2-year buffer when the May 2021 algorithm change happened, the big one, we call it the UX update in the industry, there was a buffer time to allow people to kind of catch up, and to allow people to make necessary changes to their website. In that case, it was things like altering navigation, adding security features, accessibility features. In this case, I don't think we're going to see overnight on this date, suddenly, if you're not optimizing for AI, you're going to just fall to page 25 and no one's ever going to know you exist again. But I think the slope has already started. We saw it kind of with the example we gave about the brewery. That website was created for AI search. We specifically created content that would be relevant within AI search. It was personal. It was fun. It really was on brand for this particular client of ours. And automatically almost he was ranking. And I think when you look at more generic content, these cookie cutter sites, they're already starting to fall because they're not the ones being pulled, even if they do offer those same services. So you have time, don't be afraid, but definitely something to be aware of, and start making those subtle changes now. Start publishing content that's going to make sense for your niche. Start sending, newsletters. We've talked about segmentation. That can also kind of play into all of this, helping you figure out who your niche is, what kind of content they want. So all of this plays together, and it's all going to position you really well as we move even further into the 21st century. And, AI is kind of the wave of the future, not only in tax and accounting, but in the internet at large.
Yeah, and we're talking about what are some action items, and Rebekah just got into that. So I would start by auditing my website. I would say, does it explain what you do, who you serve, and why you're different? This is what the narrative is all about. How do I tell a story? How do I position myself? How do I differentiate myself? Make myself attractive to users and clients, right? This is what we do at CountingWorks Pro. We have a full narrative layer that we go through during an onboard process. All our clients are getting basically custom content. It's not, the cookie cutter is gone. Technology is enabling us to scale this and make it really effective. Okay. You need to make sure, if you're not blogging right now and sending this stuff through newsletters, I think Rebekah nailed it. Where we're going is it's not even niching down. It's creating content for each specific client, and AI allows us to segment at scale. It's kind of like, personalized automation. It's crazy to say those two words together, but AI can do that. The tools we're creating are doing that today, and they're going to make you really deliver content that's important, not just to the AI search, but to your clients based on what their segment is. What do they care about? That dual income person, they care about dual income tax planning strategies. They don't care about what an Uber driver, and that's not the dual income I'm talking about. I'm talking about high net worth dual income. So definitely look at relaunching your blog, updating your blog. Start with the top 10 client questions, and then creating very localized, personalized versions of that with stories of your own clients. You're going to start nailing it. Okay. Create those cornerstone articles, those content clusters, what we're talking about. Make sure you're showing up with lots of 5-star reviews in all of the major indexes. TaxBuzz, for example, Google Business. These indexes are trusted by the AI search tools, okay? And that's where I was saying, if you have a 1-star review that shows up from years ago of a directory that doesn't even rank today, but somehow that's what AI is pulling, that's why it's pulling. So I think we're kind of covered this thing inside and out. So
yeah, I think I have one more point.
You do?
I do. It just kind of came to me. I want to say that this is what people want. Even if you don't necessarily think this is for you, or you're still on the fence, this is what your current clients, your future clients, this is what people are getting used to in every facet of their lives. And very soon they're going to expect it in their financial service providers too. Even down to hair care, my shampoo is now customized. Everything about it is customized to me. My food, my everything. I think and people are getting very used to this, especially when they're on social media. All of the ads are, take this quiz, get something personalized to you. We're going to customize this. We're going to tailor this to you. Subscription boxes are huge. People want things that are tailored just for their needs. And what we're doing and where the internet is going is allowing you to do that as a tax and accounting professional, which is really very cool. And it's allowing you to be kind of in the front wave of people who are delivering what society wants within the tax and accounting space. So you do have a huge opportunity here to kind of be on the cutting edge in the best possible way of what's next in this industry and kind of all industries. So I think this is something you really need to be digging into and taking seriously.
Yeah, and I what's interesting, I debate myself at times in brainstorming, and I use my AI alter ego to talk about a lot of things. But a lot of tools that we are now launching at CountingWorks Pro, for example, like people sometimes, well, I need to hire a marketing person to do this. It's replacing all of it. It's automation to scale. Like, for example, I look at HubSpot now as completely an outdated model. HubSpot is, sending email blasts and finding signals and then having humans kind of create all this content. The AI is now able to do all of this for you and automate it. You just turn on a playbook inside our system and it starts running, right? You say, add your memories, and you start doing personalized blog articles. That is, I mean, it's so highly authoritative. It's unbelievable how personalized it is. These are the results you're going to get. You're going to do better. So I don't want to say that SEO is dead. We always call it search engine optimization. People are now giving new terms for SGE and all this stuff. There's all these new terms, and I don't know which one is going to hit. I still like search everywhere because you're still going to have clients coming from all sorts of places. So you need a brand and a web presence that indexes in all these places. So if you're in the game of trying to keyword stuff and you're using websites that are 10 years old, that is going to start affecting you in a big way. So there's a huge opportunity here. And I'm hoping I hope these topics, when we talk about it, are resonating. I know, again, some of this is highly SEO technical and copy technical and internet technical, but it really isn't that hard if you're using the right tech stack. So again, I hope you're getting value out of these. We're going to continue down with a bunch of different paths. We have a lot of great content in queue. We're actually creating more content than we ever have. We are also going to add a new, I'm going to call it a podcast like meets demo, meets maybe a little bit of sales pitch, but it's called Tactical Tuesdays. We're going to start it here soon, and it's going to be built more for people who are already clients of ours. So for example, our first version, we're going to go over our calendar tool, but we're going to teach you the ins and outs of what does an online calendar do? How should it be set up? Why it's important? Should you charge? Should you not? How long should you meet? So those are kind of things that we're going to do. But this is more like if you're already a current client, or perhaps you're considering CountingWorks Pro, or you're an intent buyer, we're going to try to create content that speaks to you and gives you real value in a podcast-like format where, we're going to demo, we're trying to explain how our tool works, but we're also trying to explain to you what are the pain points, what are the benefits, what is the ROI of using this tool. So definitely start looking for our Tactical Tuesday content. Specifically, if you're a current client, we'll start sharing that on our website via email and social as well. But again, if you have any questions of the content we're writing, again, I'm on LinkedIn. Please send me a question. You can also send an email to help@countingworkspro.com. If you're interested in our services, visit countingworkspro.com. You can schedule a free strategy call. We'll go over kind of your practice. We're working on some narrative tools, maybe some freebies that we're going to do for clients just to get to know us and for us to get to know you. So look for some new offers coming up. But again, thank you for joining us for the Growth Minded Accountant. Please share this. Feel free to add any comments. We want this blog or podcast to expand as much as possible, and people that are forward thinking, that want to grow in the modern age, we're looking for you. So we're here to partner with you and help you succeed. So thank you again.